However, tragedy struck one day when Uju's mother went to the river to fetch some water. She was carrying a heavy pot on her head when she slipped and fell into the river, her once vibrant spirit fading like the dying embers of a fire. Once upon a time, in a village nestled among the rolling hills and lush forests of ancient Africa, there lived a young girl named Ujuma, who was popularly called Uju by her parents. Her laughter echoed like the song of the river, and her beauty rivaled the splendor of the sunrise. Uju was a young girl who lived in a small village on the outskirts of a great river. The river was the lifeblood of the village, providing fish for food, water for drinking and bathing, and a means of transportation. She was a happy child who loved spending time near the river, watching the fishes swim, listening to the soothing sound of the water flowing, and watch the fishermen bring in their catch for the day. Uju's mother was a kind and beautiful woman who loved her daughter more than anything in the world. They would spend hours together working in the fields, cooking meals, sing and dance together, and take long walks by the river sharing stories. Uju and her loving mother's bond was unbreakable as the river's current. Together they fetched water from the river each day, their laughter mingling with the gentle splash of the water against the shore. Uju's father was also very fond of her and would take her to the river to fish with him. However, tragedy struck one day when Uju's mother went to the river to fetch some water. She was carrying a heavy pot on her head when she slipped and fell into the river, her once vibrant spirit fading like the dying embers of a fire. The current was strong that day, and she was swept away and drowned before anyone could save her. Uju and her father, left alone in a world shrouded in darkness, were devastated by the loss of her mother, and she cried for days without eating. With sorrow weighing heavy on her heart, Uju cried day and night for her mother to come back to life, her tears mingling with the river's gentle flow as she prayed on her mother's grave. Alas, despite Uju's unwavering love and devotion, her father's spirit departed from the world. Her father was unable to cope with the loss of his wife and died soon after due to the shock, leaving Uju desperate and alone. With no one left to take care of her, Uju's kind uncle, Chief Ekana, took her in as his own. Uju's journey began with tragedy as she lost her mother and father at a tender age, leaving her orphaned and alone. However, life was not easy for Uju in her new home. Her uncle's wife, Auntie Ngozi, and her first daughter, Ada, started treating her poorly, especially when her uncle was away to a different village for a funeral. Their hearts were as cold and barren as the desert sands. Under her aunt's harsh gaze, Uju toiled day and night, her hands calloused and her spirit broken. They tormented Uju at every turn, their cruelty a dagger in her already wounded heart. Despite the sorrow that weighed heavy on her heart, Uju found solace in Chief Ikana's second daughter, Oluchi, who treated her kindly and became her only friend. Together they would go to the river, play, sing, and clap their hands. Uju would always sing with her little beautiful voice, and Oluchi would always clap and dance along. Uju would always make them sing her mother's favorite song, and they both sing in perfect harmony, their voices carrying across the river. It was always a beautiful moment. Despite the occasional moments of happiness, life remained difficult for little Uju. She was made to do all the hard chores in the house, with Oluchi sneaking to help her with some of the work. Her days were filled with scrubbing floors, washing clothes, cooking meals for the family, and sadness. Auntie Ngozi would often scold her for the slightest mistake and would hit her if she didn't do things exactly the way she wanted them done. They forced her to toil from dawn till dusk, their harsh words cutting deeper than any blade. Yet through it all, Uju clung to the memories of her mother's love and the soothing melody of the river song. Uju was growing out of all her clothes, but whenever her uncle sent money to buy new clothes for all of them, his wife would refuse to get Uju any new clothes, and Oluchi always had to give her old ones to Uju. Things took a turn for the worse when Uju's uncle died in from a snake bit while he was in the farm, and her aunt blamed her for bringing misfortune into their home. I knew it was a mistake to take someone else's child, Uju's aunt would say. You are nothing but a curse to this family. Uju, you are a witch. Uju was severely maltreated by her aunt and first daughter, making Oluchi sad because she didn't know how to stop them. Uju only found solace by the river, where she would sing to the waters, her voice carrying her pain away on the currents. As the years went by, and despite the difficult circumstances, Uju continued to grow up beautifully, with her melodious voice becoming even more enchanting with age and was the envy of a lot of girls who wished they were half as beautiful as she was. This made her aunt's first daughter, Ada, very jealous and insecure. Because Uju's beauty and voice attracted attention, she became mean to Uju and always tried to make her life more miserable. Uju's only hiding place was by the river, where she felt close to her mother. She would go there every day to sing, cry, and talk to her mother's spirit. One day, while she was singing by the riverside, a rich man's son named Chibuzo came to the village for vacation and had gone to the riverside to cool off and was immediately captivated by Uju's voice when he heard her singing at the river while fetching water. Who's that singing? Emeka asked Fafa, one of the girls who had come to wash at the riverside with her friends. That's Ujuma, Fafa replied. She comes here every day to sing. She has a beautiful voice, doesn't she? Chibuzo was smitten and began visiting the river every day to hear Uju sing. Your voice is so beautiful. Will you sing for me every day? He asked Uju. She was startled but smiled shyly and said, Yes, I will. They started spending time together at the river, and he would listen to her sing while she tell him stories about her life. Uju didn't know who he was, but she enjoyed his company. The rich man's son also had friends who came with him on the vacation, and Oluchi caught the eye of one of them. They started talking and hanging out together. They all became good friends and would often spend time together at the river. Meanwhile, Ada, the first daughter of Uju's auntie, got pregnant for a trader who pretended to be rich and promised her marriage. She later learned that he had also impregnated other girls in the village and was nowhere to be found. How could you be so foolish? Auntie Ngozi scolded her daughter. I'm sorry, Mama, she replied, tears streaming down her eyes. As time passed, Chibuzo fell in love with Uju and decided to ask her out. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day as they shared dreams of love and freedom amidst the tranquil beauty of the river's embrace. Day he confessed his love to her, and she was surprised but happy. They started going out, and he would come to the river to see her every day. Oluchi also started dating the friend of the rich man's son, and they were happy together. But their happiness was short lived when Uju's aunt discovered the blossoming romance and didn't like that Uju was dating a rich man's son and made life difficult for her. She also tried restraining her from leaving the house, but Uju stood her ground and, despite the drama, continued her relationship. Chibuzo proposed to Uju, and she said yes. As the months passed, Uju's resilience and determination caught the eye of a wealthy noble fisherman who offered her hand in marriage. But Uju's heart belonged to Chibuzo, whose love had never wavered despite the trials they faced. But Uju's auntie, who didn't want her happiness, decided to marry her off to the man who came to ask her hand in marriage. She took the bride price, sold the items, and gave the money to Ada, her pregnant daughter. Uju cried and cried, but no one was there to save her from her auntie's selfish plans. On the day of her wedding, as Uju stood in front of the villagers with the nobleman by her side, her heart ached with longing for the one she truly loved. But just as all seemed lost, Chibuzo appeared with his people, his eyes blazing with determination as he declared his undying love for Uju in front of the entire village. Touched by his devotion, Uju cast aside the trappings of wealth and privilege and followed her heart, running into Chibuzo's waiting arms as they embraced amidst the cheers of their loved ones. Chibuzo moved in front with his bride price and handed them over to Ugo's kinsmen, which they accepted to give Uju's hand out for marriage. So the noble fisherman asked Uju's auntie to give him all of his bride price he had paid, but she had already sold everything, so the man had to drag her to the chief's palace for her to return everything in 2 Ikai market days. Amidst the backdrop of the river's gentle flow and the golden glow of the setting sun, Uju and Chibuzo exchanged vows of love and devotion, their hearts forever entwined in the timeless melody of the river's song. So they got married, and Uju's life changed for the better. She went on to become a famous singer, and her music brought joy to many people. Oluchi also found love, and she and her boyfriend got married too. Auntie Ngozi and Ada regretted their actions and asked for forgiveness, and they reconciled. Uju never forgot the river where she spent her childhood and lost her mother, but she was happy that it was also the place where she found love and happiness. She would often go there with her husband to sing. The moral lesson of this story is that life teaches us that life can be unpredictable and full of ups and downs. We never know what tomorrow may bring, and we must learn to cherish the moments we have with the people we love. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cultural tales from the heart of Africa.